Always remember, anything that you may see presented in any of the stories here is in no way meant to diagnose or treat a particular problem in your personal pet. Only your veterinarian can do that after examining your pet thoroughly. So if you do have any concerns about a health problem in your pet, you definitely want to make a call to your veterinarian today.
Now ready to tell us her story is Peekaboo, a frisky little feline who is waking up feeling just a little wonky after surgery to remove some stones from her bladder. These stones have been causing her discomfort for quite some time, but fortunately for her and her owner, she found her way to Spay Neuter Save Network, where we could not only fix the problem, but hopefully prevent it from coming back.
So when we look at bladder stones in dogs and cats, normally one of the first signs that we see is signs similar to having a urinary tract infection. So they're usually straining to urinate. They may need to go out a lot more frequently. They may not be producing as much urine. You may notice some blood in the urine on a frequent basis. And what we also sometimes notice is that when we try to treat these animals for what we presume is a urinary tract infection, they may get a little bit better, but as soon as we stop the treatment, then all of a sudden the signs come back, or the treatment appears to be ineffective and they still are suffering these signs. When that happens, then we start thinking about the potential, are there some bladder stones going on in there? And the easiest way to diagnose that is to just go ahead and take an x-ray of the abdomen and look to see if there are any stone-like structures sitting in the bladder. Now, people are probably more familiar with the concept of kidney stones, and anybody who's had a kidney stone or knows somebody who's had a kidney stone knows it's an incredibly painful thing. And in humans, the stones usually form in the kidney and then work their way down into the bladder. Dogs and cats do get kidney stones. We do see them from time to time, but it's not nearly as much of a problem as it is in humans. And in most cases, the stones themselves form in the bladder itself. They don't form, in the kidneys and then travel down. And it's the same concept, though, of where you get this little bit of nidus of some grit, some crystals, maybe a blood clot or something like that. And around that, it's sort of kind of like the pearl in the oyster concept, where you just get more and more layers deposited over that nidus until the stone gets bigger. Now, if they're really small stones and it's a female dog or cat, their urethras are a little bit wider, so sometimes they can urinate these stones out frequently, and sometimes you may never even know, especially if they're really tiny. In males, their urethra is much more narrow, and so the big concern with stones in male dogs and cats especially is potential blockage of the urethra, which creates a life-threatening situation. The makeup of the stone is usually some sort of mineral content, and the most common types that we do see in dogs and cats are either what we call struvite, which are a magnesium-based stone, or calcium oxalate stones. Now, you may have heard your vet say, well, we can try to dissolve them in the bladder, and that's true really only for the struvite or the magnesium types once we alter the diet and maybe change the pH of the urine a little bit. Any other stone, unfortunately, we do have to surgically go in and take out. And you really can't tell a lot of times on x-ray exactly what type of stone it is. You certainly can try to take multiple x-rays over a period of time to see if they're getting bigger, smaller, more forming, things like that, but almost always it ends up having to have what's known as a cystotomy performed, which is a procedure where we go into the abdomen and then we make a very small incision in the bladder itself, drain the urine out, and then go ahead and remove any stones that are in the bladder. Fortunately, the bladder is a very, rapidly healing organ, and so even with that kind of incision that's made in it and kind of the scooping out of the stones that we're doing, it will heal down and heal up pretty quickly with just some minor sutures. So that's what we kind of had to do in Peekaboo's case. We went in and removed the two stones that we did see there, and you could tell by the fact that they were kind of spindly and spiky, certainly was probably something that was causing her a good deal of discomfort. So having them out is certainly going to help her and make her feel a lot better once she wakes up.
So, the first part of bringing little Peekaboo some relief was done. We got the stones out. Now, how do we try and prevent them from coming back?
So, as we said, the stones kind of can be made up of multiple different types of minerals. Again, the most common types are magnesium-based or ones that have calcium-based, calcium oxalate stones. And so the only way to truly know what the stone is made of is to have it sent off to a laboratory where basically they do some chemical reactions and chemical analysis to determine exactly what that stone is made of. And they will usually look at all layers of the stone to make sure that we're not missing any kind of mineral that might be potentially in that stone. Once we get that report back, and it's usually a couple of weeks for it to come back, we know exactly what the stone is made of, and we can actually recommend usually diet changes. So either just a change in diet on what they are on now, or recommending a prescription diet, as we call it, which is something you can only get through your veterinarian, that will help prevent the reformation of those stones. A lot of times that will be all that's needed, and we do recommend other things like trying to get them to, drink more water, take in more fluids so that it keeps their urine a little more dilute to prevent, stone and crystal formation. Sometimes though, you run into dogs and cats that are just, as we call, stone factories. It's just in their genetics to produce these stones. And so we try to keep them, as infrequent as possible. Some animals do require multiple surgeries, unfortunately, to remove some of the stones if they keep coming back. But usually now, between medication and diet, we can probably resolve about 90% or more of these cases from ever having to deal with stones in their bladder again, which certainly will make everybody a lot happier.
And that is exactly what was done with Peekaboo. Switched to a prescription diet designed to help prevent those stones from coming back, she recovered very well from surgery and, despite not appearing too pleased with having to return, looked great at her recheck appointment with Spay Neuter Save Network. Her grateful owner had this to say about her. Peekaboo seems to be doing well, back to her normal self, even playful. The stress she was experiencing is gone. She is no longer hitting the litter box constantly, nor peeing in unusual places outside the litter box. I think she is much happier and back to normal as previous. She had suffered from urinary and bathroom issues, complications, for a long time. Thus far, we are both very grateful. Thank you and Spay Neuter Save so much. These are the types of cases we strive to help every day at Spay Neuter Save Network. Helping those most in need is our mission, and cats like Peekaboo would not be able to get the care they need without your support. So thank you for watching, and please consider becoming a supporter of Spay Neuter Save Network today.